G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is a Lurker pistol, not to be confused with Lurkers from Jak and Daxter. Shout out to anyone who remembers. Anyways, so the Lurker pistol, as Daxter would refer to it as, is a weapon based on its namesake, but spelled just a little bit differently. It's an Italian weapon, which maybe I should have had Carla to use instead of the missile launcher I used yesterday. But Italian-made weapon came around 1950, so shortly after the Second World War, and basically they wanted a pistol that could fire in automatic fashion. Now, what they did to accomplish this is give it some smaller rounds to retain the controllability whilst firing very rapidly. It's chambered in like 25 ACPs in real life, something to that effect. So not these 38 special rounds, but these ones are obviously just in the vanilla game, so close enough, that's fine. But those rounds don't have a lot of power behind them, so you can control this thing fairly well despite being a very lightweight weapon with a decently high rate of fire, and that's how they did that. It's a lot smaller than the 9mm Parabellum rounds that they'd be using during the Second World War, but there's a little bit of concealability with this thing as well. Looking at this thing, you can tell there's just little bits and bobs from vanilla game guns. You've got the Deliverer magazine looking here. I think the trigger guard and the trigger is also from the Deliverer, but they've snuck in this 10mm pistol grip, which looks really nice. Sorry, comfort grip is what that actually is, which actually looks kind of genuine. And then you've got this whole combat shotgun slash rifle barrel setup here, and that's kind of it. But despite using a bunch of vanilla parts, this thing actually looks like it kind of belongs in this game, which is nice. Anyways, enough about that. Let's get into some customization. Now, like the thing in real life, you can have this thing automatic or semi-automatic if you prefer. Powerful auto gives you 72 damage, advanced gives you 108. Obviously the fire rate and DPS would be slightly higher on the powerful auto one for balancing reasons, which we'll start off with here. Right now I've got a short receiver. You can increase the range and decrease the fire rate by putting on a long receiver, so potentially if you want a more sniper variant of this, then you could go ahead and chuck on a long receiver and the semi-auto semi-auto receivers on it, and then you'll be able to do that. Actually, there's two receivers here. I guess one's an upper and one's a lower receiver, right? But we'll leave this on short now because we're going to make this one automatic, you see. So right now I've got a standard grip. You can have a comfort grip, which looks like a standard 10mm pistol grip, and then a wood grip, a stock actually, which probably will not change the animations of this thing, but going by old school sort of rifleman or just sort of pistol, like the tanks, then the pilots would use these pistols with stocks for stability purposes, and obviously because they're in a tight enclosed space, they won't want to carry rifles along with them, but that's how they did it. And there's also a sharpshooter's grip here, which adds the sharpshooter's grip from the 10mm pistol, which kind of makes it cool and ergonomic and stuff. There's also a light stock here if you feel like it, offering superior recoil. Interesting. Right now we've got a small magazine, but we can change this into a very large drum magazine on the bottom, which appears to be utilizing a small, teeny, tiny combat shotgun drum magazine, but I think it works particularly well here. And this thing being automatic, you want a high magazine capacity so you can hose down enemies just that little bit extra longer. Next up, we've got the sights, which start off with standard sights. You can have glowing versions of that for targeting in the dark if you feel like. A reflex sight is always there if you need it. Makes it slightly better in terms of its VATS AP usage and just makes aiming easier. There's also combat scopes and standard scopes. Your combat scopes are your see-through scopes. Your standard scopes are the ones that go into the TV mode where you've got massive tunnel vision. I tend to prefer the standard scopes because the visual recoil is not transmitted into those scopes, but to each their own. Combat scopes, you can go all the way up to 6 times with these things, which seems a little excessive, but I'm going to try that out anyway. But for now, we'll just leave on the reflex sight and we will move on. Right now, I've got a short barrel. We can extend that to increase our range a little bit. A compensator to control with recoil a little bit, which kind of looks like a big old MG42 compensator on the end there. A suppressor will increase our damage thanks to Ace Operator, and you can have a large suppressor which reduces the fire rate but increases the range a little bit, so you can sort of get less of a range penalty here if you want to sacrifice a little bit of fire rate. Maybe we won't do that for this one, but we'll have a short barrel, short suppressor set up here for our automatic one. Also a legendary effect if you need it, and then there's the Creation Club thing, which can change the paint of the drum magazine. That's cool. Let's paint it Institute, why not? Cool. That looks kind of cool, I guess. Here's a couple of other Lurker pistols I've created. This one's just long barrel semi-auto, and this one's sniper status with the 6x scopes, a big old stock, and a long suppressor and barrel on the front. Looks totally practical to me. What are you talking about? So the eagle-eyed among you probably have noticed that I've had this M84 launchers, or 30 of them, sitting in the weapons workbench as well. And there's been a couple of updates to this M84 Gustav mod, and mainly here, they've actually got hotkeys working, which doesn't work like throwing a grenade, but it's damn close, and I think it's just close enough to think that it's actually a really good choice. So basically what happens is, it'll be more easy to see this during gameplay, but you'll throw this grenade, you'll switch over to the M84 like that, and then you'll fire it, and as soon as it's empty, you'll switch back to the weapon that we're using. That's how it's supposed to work. It's an experimental feature. It may not work. We might crash the game. It might cause other problems, but should that work, then we've basically got like a missile launcher instead of a grenade button there, which is awesome. It's going to take a little bit more time to get that fired as soon as we actually activate that hotkey grenade thing, but I think it'll be worth the wait. There's also a settings thing, so you can actually retain your launchers instead of having to pick them up after a combat fight if you decide to use them in a large amount. And there's also a reload thing here, so if you want to reload your expired ones, you can do this specifically through this window, but if you want to make them from scratch, that includes every single other form that you'd see. Well, you can use this particular menu to get it. So it's been a little bit cleaned up, and the menus work a little bit better now. And if you're wondering, yes, I'll show you these later. Alright, so welcome to the Immersive Gunners Plaza. Here is the Lurker in first person. We've got some deliver animations which don't work super well when we transition over to automatic firing, but if I use the semi-auto one, perfect. So this is about as fast as you can fire the long-barreled, long-suppressed version there, which is, well, it's a sniper status gun, so it'll be fine. It blows up a car in a few shots, so... curiously, one of the mod authors who used to make weapons used to balance things in, like, how many shots it blew up a car in, which is just... I thought that was really weird. Wouldn't you just shoot at actual enemies and stuff instead? Anyways, this is the third one that I've made. This is just the standard long barrel one semi-auto that you saw earlier, and you'll notice that all of the sounds are just that of the vanilla game, which is cool. It's nothing to be ashamed of at all, which means that if you have any really cool replaces for them, then they'll use the replace sound, so it'll be easy to make this thing have different sounds should you want it to. But first, let's get started. Let's go into the good old-fashioned sniper spot, and we've got this long-ass scope, so I guess we'll just keep shooting. Really not worried about missed shots there. Excuse me? Someone over there has got themselves a Gustav, I think. They've been injected into leveled lists. Every now and then, I'll get a Hitman's thing, which is a classic bug known in the Hitman animations for the handmade. If you use the semi-auto version, sometimes it'll just AN-94 a shot or two. And now, I think we're almost in danger from something. We'll switch over to the automatic one now. Hose this fella down. There we go. And in every fight tends to they get distracted by the stupid bugs that live around this place. But we haven't been spotted yet. Not quite yet. That guy's decided to run away despite being ever so close to... Okay, now it's on. And now, I get to use the missile launcher. Throw the grenade, missile launcher equips, and bam. We almost hit that guy. And now we can switch... We can't switch back. Uh-oh, I've broken it. We'll bring out another one. Okay, I've busted the mod. I can't unequip this now. Let me try. No, there is nothing I can do. I've just soft-locked myself. So the only way I'm going to defeat these guys is by chugging on 1 billion stim packs and hitting them for 4 damage over and over. So we'll just reset and we'll come back fresh. So whilst I'm here, we'll take a quick look at the settings menu for the M84 launcher. This little sub menu will allow you to either drop or retain them. Right now we've got it set to retain, and this is the experimental hotkey settings, which will allow this experimental, I want to stress that, very experimental setting where you can have a sort of grenade-based hotkeys, and there's also the ability to spawn launchers if you don't want to craft them. That's more for debug purposes though, I think. And with that, we'll bring out our standard little pistol, and we'll try to get this little Gustav working properly. So that's one grenade, we won't worry about that. We've immediately switched over, and that's the second one, and there you go. It looks like on this occasion, we can actually get this to work properly, and as you see, we've immediately... We didn't drop those on the ground, did we? Okay, we did, but maybe I need to mess around with the settings again to make it so I actually retain. But as you can tell, the grenade hotkey is working, except for when it doesn't, because I haven't actually reloaded this. And I think if I try to switch to other weapons... So yeah, it works and then it just doesn't. So I probably won't be using this feature, but we're getting closer. We'll have to use hotkeys, but I think not having to clean up after ourselves is going to make the ATs or the Gustavs just slightly better to use. So reset again. Alrighty, so here we are again, but with hotkey number 4 being the Gustav launcher itself, which you'll probably notice, we don't throw it on the ground anymore, which means we can actually get these missiles out pretty dang fast, and well, that's just a lot of damage that we're getting out of that. Very impressive. Also, notice how they're just ignoring line of sight. That's because it's anti-tank, right? It's got to kill the crew on the inside. Anyways, we're totally detected now, so I guess we'll just take it to them. Let's go. So, unfortunately, this thing is not as quite impressive on the damage, and I hear that whistle again. They're firing the Gustavs at me. That's fine. So it looks like we can get to kill at least the gunner commanders in a magazine, which is fine, I guess. Again, we're not kind of expecting to have sort of endgame power potential here. It's more of a stealth weapon, I think, as I've got it set up at the moment. So maybe we don't do that and just focus on using the launcher and just hit, I don't know, literally anything. Or hit everything once and then finish him off with the pistol, so I don't have to worry about trying to figure out exactly who's left or trying to save as many missiles as possible. There we go. Perfect. The old 1-2 punch. Who would have thought the Gustav and a little Lurker pistol would be such a great combination, which is definitely exclusive, and you couldn't do this with literally any other weapon in the game, that's for sure. But we're holding our own for the moment. That's actually gone into Nerd Rage now, which might be super useful because I've got a big old mag capacity and we've got a bunch of slowdown. Now, unfortunately, I'm not seeing any of that extra Nerd Rage damage for whatever reason. Probably because I immediately got myself out of it. We got the slowdown though, and we got a little bit of extra little bits of damage out of that. And over there is a guy, and we'll snipe at him. Take this. I saw 247. Has that damage finally kicked in? It definitely has. Okay, we're definitely rocking Nerd Rage damage now. Lousy tire hitboxes. You should have been dead already. Don't you bloody get knocked down to your own advantage. That's probably the one time where you don't want it. Anyways, let's open this thing up a little bit in VATS. Obviously, its range is not very good, so our starting accuracy without being assisted by concentrated fire leaves a little bit to be desired, but we've got a cheeky level up out of that, which means we're pretty much right to go again. We'll use the semi-auto one on our next target just so we've got this one shown off. Check it off the list and then probably won't use it much further. Hey, don't forget to reload here. Must have put an empty magazine in. So, as you can tell, the time to kill here, unassisted by my terrible aim, is about 3 to 5 business days. So, yeah, no. Not super helpful, but we can use this automatic one here to light this guy up. And I think we'll just bring the Gustav out and we'll bring it home with that. And actually, that's close enough. Perfect. What else have we got down here? One commander. We'll launch one his way. Or her. His, in this case. And then we'll get another one out there. Total whiffer on that occasion. Actually, that was a direct hit. Killed him instantly. That's great. Maybe we should start aiming directly at them. The velocity is just standard missile launcher stuff, so I suppose you could call it predictable because you've been using them since 2015. But it's not going to be super sniper status. And I've got no idea how many Gustavs I have left. Probably not enough to keep this sustained up for much longer. But at least I can make these two work together, if nothing else. You're getting vatsed, I think. You're not worth the missile. We'll add some criticals into the mix just to give her a little bit more sting. We've got that shorter barrel, which does increase our critical damage a little bit. To honestly, not bad effect. 202 damage instead of the 47 or so we were hitting them for earlier. I'd say that's pretty good. So we get nice and close to this gunner. I'm not terribly... I actually don't mind the critical damage on this, and maybe knowing how much crit damage we get, we should potentially just exclusively use this thing in VATS basically all the time. Now, we've got more dudes up here. That's fine. We'll bring out the Gustav. We're able to hit that guy through that wall there, and that guy took a little bit of damage as well. Person on the escape staircase thing was easy to take out. Actually, I think these two, you've earned this. 3, sorry. And now we've got this one, which, if we can go through line of sight, that's some damage. Haha, perfect. Wall hacks, baby. Demolition expert, wall hacks. And how many rockets do I have left? Just a precious 4. And we've even got some Rust Devils to come in and loot the place. Have at it, boys. I'm going inside. Righto, so welcome to the super stealth mission. The lights have been dimmed on account of the sun going down, and we're ready for a stealth mission with our Italian super Glock, which so far has gone pretty well there. I think Bloody Mess picked up one of those kills by turning that extra into giblets there, which is nice. But yeah, once we get the sneak criticals rolling in, we can do a whole lot of good damage, but I don't think these guys are as high ranks as the fellows outside, unfortunately for them. So even if we do get detected, they're not going to be standing up to quite as much punishment as we were giving the ones that you saw just before. Does it make sense to have all of the high-ranking dudes on the outside? Or is the chain of command weird, being filled up entirely of commanders and brigadiers? Don't think they thought that one through, to be honest. I think maybe you should have like the bosses called the commanders and brigadiers and such, but I think maybe instead of having them all that rank, just make them like sergeants, master sergeants, and whatever other sergeants I'll find. And that's a Gustav being fired right at us, so happy to return the favor, I think. Yeah, didn't like that one, did ya? And I'm guessing one of these bastards might have a grenade launcher on them, so we've got to keep a lookout for that. I think we'll get a knockdown if we destroy that turret, so we'll be using that to completely mag dump this guy a few times, and before that guy runs and grabs a grenade launcher, we'll chop him down. So there you go, the commanders have finally shown up. Maybe there's got to be a mod out there that changes some of the naming conventions. Because there was one for XCOM, right? Instead of going all the way up to Colonel, you'd get up to like Master Sergeant, and that was like your highest rank, because obviously you've got the commander there. And I've run into this room for no reason. But we might be slipping back into caution now, and we might be able to get a little bit more work done with our sniper status version here. Let's do it. Honestly, I thought I'd be getting slightly more one-shot kills than normal. I think someone over there has got explosive rounds on that particular... Yeah, so we've just taken explosive 50 cals to wherever they shot us, which is fine. We've got unbreakable skeletons and an energy shield that is rated up to 7 massive anchor drops from a giant super mutant behemoth, so we can just shrug that one off just fine. And with this turret dead, the stealth mission is complete. And yeah, play to this thing's strengths a little bit, it'll work out. We're kind of punching above its weight for an endgame weapon, but I think regardless, it is done pretty well. And Nordhagen Beach is under attack. I don't care. Have fun, settlers. Here we go. It's the moment that none of you have been waiting for, yet I said I'd show you anyway. Bam. There you go. That's what they look like. You can barely see them. I'm not zooming in, but it's the type of shoe an operator would get because they like to show off their wealth, right? They only care about caps and looks. So, you know what? I think that's a good fit for you. Plus, they're red, so they match the color of the rest of you. Righto, so Kira's still dressed like she's meant to be going on a night out with all of the other angels, but that's in 20 minutes. What we're going to do to fill that time in is shoot the Swan with a bunch of Gustavs. This one is the Nuka-Nuke launcher, which I've deliberately left it at night for because we can see that beautiful giant blue mushroom cloud filled with all of the Nuka-Cola quantum energy there, which is doing a good 3,000 damage per hit, which is... it's massive. I'm not even worried about the normal AT round not killing everything in a single hit because we've got rockets like this that'll do 3,000 to the Swan, and these are probably the worst shoes to be running in at the moment. I don't think it'd be easy running in them. I've seen female athletes, like, they're proper, like, running, hurdling sort of athletes, and they've run like a 200 meter or so sprint wearing heels, and I just thought, why would you do that? Surely that's going to destroy your ankle and whatever. Because that's a lot of weight that you're putting on such a small thing. That's just asking for trouble. Anyways, so we'll just fill up the night sky with some cool explosions. It's a little bit of a fireworks display before everyone goes out, I think. And we actually dodged that missile, so that was cool. And looks like one more will do it. So let's make it nice and cinematic. There we go. I wanted that tracking shot on the missile. And there he goes. We could have done the same thing with the Lurker pistol, but it's a lot easier this way. And I think having a bunch of explosions to end off the video will just fulfill a Michael Bay thing, seeing as I'm doing plenty of that bullshit already. Here you go. Here's the Lurker. Never mind. That's not the Lurker at all. I'm kind of stuck here. I'm going to put a... Can you just stand still? Actually,
calm down, you freak.
You have to work on that charm if you want to keep all the dudes away from you tonight. There we go. Alright. So, there you have it. That was the Lurker with the new and improved Gustav M84. And although I think there's a little bit of work to do, I think not having... littering the battlefield with a bunch of empty launches, I think that's a really cool thing. So that's a step in the right direction. If they can iron out the kinks on the grenade hotkey version, which when it works, it's absolutely brilliant, but for some reason I just broke it, and that might be because I had multiple of the same weapon in my inventory or multiple hotkeys set up already that I was switching to and confusing that particular setup. But whatever it was, hopefully that'll be fixed pretty soon, and I'm happy to see that mod through. And I think I'm just going to keep that mod in my mod load order now, because it's like nothing on the hard drive, and it's just a really cool backup system for a like a sort of a grenade, except it's a missile launcher. It's awesome. So check out links in the description if you're interested. Thank you very much for watching, guys.